You are watching Luntha television and it's time for news. My name is Hilbert Katanda. Now let's have a look at our top stories. Prayers for health of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI outpouring. Chakwera prologues Parliament. Civil servants to go on nationwide strike against government. And in international news, Eritrea Catholic Bishop Fikri Mariam Hegos freed from detention. Well, we have these and more other stories to stay tuned in. People around the globe are praying for Benedict XVI at the invitation of Pope Francis as the Pope Emeritus healthy remains stable but under observation by his doctors. Pope Francis announced on Wednesday that his 95-year-old predecessor has been suffering recently from ill health. Christians as well as non-Christians have responded in droves to Pope Francis' request for prayers for the German-born Pope Emeritus. We have the details.
Cardinal Blaise, Archbishop of Chicago, tweeted his spiritual support and urged everyone to ask for the Lord's grace to help sustain Pope Benedict, as he has sustained the Church through his silent witness. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop of New York, issued a similar statement and invitation, expressing great faith in God's goodness. The Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Vincent Nicholas, added his voice praying that God might sustain and console him at this time. Catholics in Ukraine also joined in the spiritual chorus for the Pope Emeritus after Major Archbishop Shevchuk urged the Synod and all the faithful of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church to pray. Major Archbishop Shevchuk met recently with Benedict at his residence in the Vatican's Meta Ecclesia Monastery on 10th November. He later recounted that the Pope Emeritus was incredibly lucid, informed and solicitous about the situation in Ukraine and has assured his prayers for the Ukrainian people. The chief rabbi of the Jewish community of Rome, Riccardo Di Sen, also tweeted his prayerful support for Benedict. The president of the Italian Bishops' Conference, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, urged Italians to gather around the Pope Emeritus in prayer at this trying time, recalling Benedict's own description of his mission following his resignation from the papacy.
President Lazarus Chakwera has invoked his constitutional powers by proroguing Parliament after the August House adjourned sine die on 16th December 2022 amid chaotic scenes. The decision signals the end of the 49th session of Parliament. The President opened on 4th September 2022 in effect means all its outstanding business, including bills, motions and parliamentary questions, have fallen off. This is the second time in democratic Malawi a president has used his constitutional powers to prorogue Parliament after former President Bingwa Mutharika, now deceased, did the same on 14th September 2007. In a statement issued on Tuesday by Speaker of Parliament Catherine Godanihara, says the President prorogued the 49th session of Parliament on 18th December 2022, 2 days after its adjournment. Leader of Opposition, Kundwan Nkrumah, has spoken on the need for traditional leaders to promote coexistence among people of different dominions. Nkrumah, who is also Vice President for the Democratic Progressive Party for the South, made the remarks today when he visited the family of late Senior Chief Mponda in Mangochi District. He went to console the family following the demise of Senior Chief Mponda IV, who died on 16th November 2022. According to Nkrumah, Mponda chieftaincy has a rich history as it is closely associated with the introduction of Christianity in Malawi. This is part of what he said.
We have been taught that Senior Chief Mponda I was unique in nature, in that he is the one, despite being a Muslim, but he surrendered a piece of land around this area to be used for Christian activities. That's a plus. That's not a mean achievement, and that is sending home a message to say that we need to live in peaceful coexistence, regardless of religious affiliation. So this is well commendable. This is the reason I've made a commitment to construct a good tombstone for him, but also the other tombstones for the other three senior chief Mpondas, including the latest one. So.
Meanwhile, Group Village Headman Malunda, who is currently standing in for Traditional Authority Mponda, held Nkrumah for the visit. He said, among others, the late Mponda was advocating for coexistence when he lived. He explains.
We call ourselves lucky today for being honored a visit by a leader of opposition in Parliament, Kundwan Nkrumah, who came to console the family. Honestly, we didn't expect this, but we are thankful for the gesture.
Ministry of Finance says it will consider allocating money in the 2023-2024 financial year that shall go towards establishment of state-owned national mining firm. This follows a request by the Ministry of Finance to have fund for the firm, which was submitted to the Ministry of Finance earlier this year. It is reported that the National Mining Investment and Development Corporation needs about 5 billion kwacha seed capital to commence the exercise. Bernard Manza reports.
The establishment of the National Mining Investment and Development Corporation is being led by the Minister of Mining, which made the request to the Minister of Finance to consider the allocation. Finance Minister Sosten Gwengwe said the request is under consideration and the money will be allocated in the 2023-2024 national budget. He said government believes that mining can address a number of issues, adding that the priority will be the Mining Regulatory Authority and then the mining company. Experts have been calling on government to take mining seriously, which is being considered as a game changer to economy, replacing tobacco. Andrew Mkonda Banda, who is a spokesperson in the Ministry of Mining area, said that despite waiting for allocation from Treasury, the ministry is finding other alternatives of finance and that the company will act as a catalyst for the mineral sector growth and development. He further hinted that cooperation will promote the local mining industry, contribute towards the country's socio-economic development and also create job opportunities. Mining expert Green Marunga has backed government's intention to invest in a state mining firm, saying the initiative remains critical to enhance development of the sector. In May last year, President Lazarus Chakwera announced plans to reform the country's mining sector to boost the economy and crack down on rampant illegal mining and mineral smuggling, saying if properly regulated, mining could play a major role in Malawi's economy, currently one of the poorest in Africa.
You're still watching news right here on Luntha television and on our social media platforms, YouTube and Facebook, respectively. Now let's have a recap of our top stories before we proceed. Prayers for health of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI outpouring. Chakwera prologues Parliament. civil servants to go on nationwide strike against government. And in international news, Eritrea Catholic Bishop Fikri Mariam Hegos freed from detention. Moving on, civil servants in Malawi have said they will start striking on 9th January 2023 over government's failure to address their concerns relating to the high cost of living. This is according to a letter signed by Civil Servants Trade Union General Secretary Madalit Sonjeromole and Teachers Union of Malawi General Secretary Charles Kunchenga. According to the letter, TUM and CSTU held a meeting with government's negotiating team on December 16 this year at Kambali Lodge in Lilongwe, where they presented their concerns. However, government is yet to address the concerns, especially the ones relating to the current prevailing high cost of living that has made lives of majority public and civil servants unbearable. Government has been challenged to come in and employ more physical counselors as they are inadequate in the country public hospitals in a bid to cure the rising cases of suicide caused by mental health issues. The development follows reports that Malawi registered 347 suicide cases between January and November this year, an increase from 287 registered in the same period last year. Mental health experts are of the view that the country is lacking interventions such as psychosocial therapy, poor coping skills, and cultural upbringing, as Malawian culture does not allow men to be vulnerable and express emotional weakness during difficult times, unlike women, like most African countries. Tandiwe Mzumara reports.
Malawi has this year seen a drastic rise in suicide cases attributed to mental health issues caused by relationship problems, economic crisis, and trauma amongst people aged between ages of 21 to 40. For example, while suicide claimed 160 people between January and August in 2021, this year 208 people took their own lives in Malawi, meaning that an average of 26 people committed suicide each passing month. From January to November this year, the cases have risen to 347, while in 2021, 287 cases were recorded during the same period. Expressing concern, Deputy National Police spokesperson Inspector Harry Namaza has called on all stakeholders to take part in raising awareness of mental health issues.
This needs a concerted effort. So we have to join hands as the MAPA service with other stakeholders to ensure that the people are well informed, and also the parents, they need to be on the lookout, close supervision on their children. They have to know what their children are going through, whether at school or whenever they are at home.
While concurring with Namaza that financial turbulences and sexual relations problems that most people find themselves in are triggering the rise in suicide cases in Malawi, Dr. Charles Maswani, a psychologist working with the St. John of God Hospitaller, also blames the situation on the unfounded notion that men need not cry in times of difficulty. Dr. Maswani also believes that although Malawi has a number of mental health counselors readily available to serve people, there is a need for government to employ more of these to cover the gap that seems to be there, and perhaps even using the health surveillance assistants who get to be on the ground sensitizing the public about several diseases to raise awareness on mental health issues and encourage a health-seeking behavior amongst people, mostly in rural areas.
Seeing the importance of seeking help, what we call health-seeking behaviors. Then on the other side, is that while these things are prevalent, we do not have people that people can trust and can confide in and, fully express their issues so that they can receive appropriate help. There are so many people that masquerade out there that, they are counselors, that when we're talking about serious psychological issues like suicide, you need highly professionally trained counselors or psychologists who can provide support.
Dr. Michael Udedi is the Assistant Director of Curative and Medical Rehabilitation Services responsible for mental health in the Ministry of Health, and he says the ministry is, through the implementation of the recently devised suicide prevention strategy, seeks to work collaboratively with several stakeholders, including the media, in raising awareness on mental health issues. Dr. Udedi has advised the need for the change in the way the media reports in such cases, saying that among other things, the means used to commit suicide and even suicide letters should not be publicized for the fear of a situation referred to as copycat suicide, whereby people tend to copy what they hear.
We want to make sure that a lot of partners or stakeholders are taking part in prevention of suicide, including faith-based organizations, churches, and probably in mosques. People are able to provide information, but also to provide support in people who have got challenges or who are going through a lot of challenges, which can lead to probably one taking his or her own life.
Dr. Udedi went further to disclose that there is a toll-free line that people can call to seek mental health assistance whenever they are stressed, depressed, and are experiencing suicide thoughts. The numbers are 54747, run by the ministry, 5600 and 116, run by UNECO. According to the World Health Organization, 800,000 people die by suicide each year, which equates to one death every 40 seconds worldwide. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Tandi Wemzumara.
Lilongwe City Council says it is creating an ecological corridor of green zones around Lilongwe and Lingadzi rivers to restore the riverline, protect urban biodiversity, and create a nurture-friendly garden city. According to the chairperson of Lilongwe Ecological Corridor Initiative, Zilan Gondwe, environmental degradation and poor management and mining, as well as deforestation, among others, will all having an application impact on natural resources and people suffering the impacts. What have fueled the council to establish this initiative by the next year? Gondwe pointed out that the river banks that have been mined and have poor stability with no trees and a city with no vegetation to slow down that water suffers greatly. Arinafe Piri reports.
As evidently seen from the dust and heat resulting in respiratory ailments and poor health of residents in the city, Lilongwe City Council, through the Lilongwe Ecological Corridor Committee, is yet to establish the Lilongwe Ecological Corridor (LECI) with an aim of restoring green vegetative cover mined along riverbanks and those that were cut down for the Kenyatta and Mzimba Drive road projects. This development realizes over 1,000 mibawa and other trees that the city lost through these road projects, which then traumatized residents of Lilongwe City and Malawi as a whole. Speaking to Luntha television, chairperson of LECI, Zilani Gondwe, said the threat of climate change and related incidents, including the devastating power of flash flooding in the cities, has exposed residents to extreme weather conditions, but stressed that if the city is not resilient, residents will suffer even worse. According to Gondwe, Ecological Corridor Initiative will help to restore riverlines and lost cover in the city, hence mitigating impacts of climate change.
The corridor will be part of the strategic plan of the city. It will be embedded in the laws. That's why it's going to have specific protections for its establishment and its management, working closely with the various ministries that are necessary for this. There's so many ministries that are important in this space of climate change and environmental management, including the Ministry of Natural Resources, local governments, water and sanitation, agriculture, tourism, just to name a few you're not forgetting even health or civic education.
Gondwe then applauded the Minister of Local Government for gifting residents of Lilongwe City with 50,000 mibawa trees grown by Botanic Gardens as a way of supporting the initiative.
The Minister of Local Government launched the Lilongwe Christmas tree by giving also the gift of 50,000 mibawa trees to the city of Lilongwe, which have been grown by Botanic Gardens as part of the initiative, and to replace the mibawa that was taken off Kenyatta Drive and other areas of the city. There's also 100,000 indigenous tree seedlings that have been grown. These are now a year old. So we're working very hard to both protect what is existing as well as replace what has been lost.
The Lilongwe Ecological Corridor Initiative, LESI, is the brainchild of the Lilongwe City Council and supported by UNDP, Lilongwe Wildlife Trust, ICON, and LESI Steering Committee. Reporting for Luntha News, this is Alina Feperi.
Communities at Gwirize village, tradition authority Pemba in Salima district, are living in fear as there is a possibility of flash floods due to persistent heavy rains. Over 300 people were affected by the devastating floods that ripped through Malawi in February this year, and with rains still falling, many of them who were forced to abandon their homes have been unable to retain and rebuild their lives. Grace Dikoni of Gwirize village told journalists during a tour which was organized by UNFPA that her 100-year-old father Dikon Jamapili's house fell down while he was sleeping during the night due to heavy rains and wind. Richard Monoka was in Salima and she now reports.
Emergency shelter and sanitation are in urgent demand in Gwirize village, where displaced families are reported to have no or only very limited access to clean drinking water and no proper sanitation facilities and roofs over their heads. Heavy rains, which started on 12th through 13th February this year, washed away houses, leaving a number of people homeless. As Grace Deacon explains, her father was left lifeless when his house fell on him while he was fast asleep, which left him in hospital.
When the house fell on the ground, we were also sleeping in our houses, but we heard some noise coming from my father's house. That's when we rushed and found my father unconscious. This is sad because, as you can see there, his house is still on the ground and there is no hope that the house will be rebuilt.
Another elderly woman, Mwaduwami Mwazama, who was also left homeless the same month, called on government and stakeholders' aid, for she feared this year might be worse.
I was sleeping at that time, but luckily enough it was during the day, so I forced myself out of the house. I only managed to rescue one goat, but the rest of my things in the house were destroyed.
Village Civil Protection Committee member Nezani Gresham said even though stakeholders intervene whenever there are disasters in the area, there is need for a permanent solution, hence calling on government and relevant stakeholders to come to their rescue.
When the group saw that about 300 people were displaced, we thought creating some space for them was ideal. That's when we identified the school, but it was only temporarily. We were told to vacate them when schools opened, and we didn't know where to go with them.
In his remarks, UNFPA Programs Manager in Salima District, Francis Vundula, said they work on district level and offer healthy services which are also crucial in disaster areas. He said there is still need for collaborative effort and enough preparedness as disasters occur every year and leave a number of people homeless.
We also provide in the camps where adolescent girls and young women are available. We provide with them, one, with digging the kits to support them with their daily activities of living. Apart from that, we support them also with the interventions, mostly outreach services, utilizing the nearest health center or the nearest hospital.
Floods and cyclones Anna and Gombe hit the country early this year, where some people were feared dead and some displaced, a thing which many fear that might happen again this rainy season. Bridget Manoka, for Luntha News in Lilongwe.
In sports, the Flames are scheduled to go into a residential camp in February to start preparations for their back-to-back 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifiers against Egypt. The first leg is scheduled for Egypt on March 20, while the reverse fixture is slated for Bingu National Stadium 7 days later. Flames coach Mario Maranika said he has requested Football Association of Malawi for a 2-week local camping before proceeding to Saudi Arabia for the second phase of the camping. And now in news from elsewhere, a leading Catholic bishop in Eritrea has been freed from detention after being held without trial since October. Bishop Hegos was released along with the parish priest, Abba Stephanos. Meanwhile, no reasons were given by the authorities for their detention. Reports indicate that the Catholic Church has repeatedly called for an end to one-party rule and for democracy to be embraced. That also wraps up our today's news bulletin, but before we go, a reminder of our top stories. Prayers for health of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI outpouring. Chakwera prologues Parliament. Civil servants to go on nationwide strike against government. And in international news, Eritrea Catholic Bishop Fikri Mariam Hegos freed from detention. My name is Hilbert Katanda. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye for now.